Ever since I got started with the audio programmer, people have been asking me to make some audio programming tutorials, specifically for people who are using the Windows operating system. And after all these years, I'm proud to say that I actually got myself a Windows laptop. This is going to be my first time setting up my developer environment here on Windows, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to take this journey together to figure out what tools and apps we need to set up to get started as audio programmers with Windows. So let's go ahead and get started. A little something before we get started. A lot of the people who are watching this video are probably in their first steps of any type of software development. And with that being said, I'm going to give a little bit of a general description of what each tool is before I download it. The actual tutorial for all of these is beyond the scope of this particular video, but I encourage you to go and check out and do some research on your own once you've downloaded these tools. With that being said, the first tool that we're installing is called Git, and we're going to be downloading this from the official website for Git, which is in the video description below. And Git is essentially a way that we can save our software and share the software and the code that we write with other people, and for other people to share their code and software with us. And the way that we do that is in what's called a repository. As I mentioned before, the scope of how to do that is beyond this tutorial, but I'm going to show you how to download it and install it here. So we're just going to download it by hitting this 64-bit Git for Windows setup. I'm assuming most people are on a fairly modern machine that uses 64-bit. Now, for people who are familiar with Git, you may want to change some of the default options that are set as you're doing the installation, because there's quite a few options. I'm going to do just the default setup here, which means that I'm going to just click through these options and just do whatever the default choice is, and that's worked fine for me. And I would encourage anybody who's getting started just to essentially do the same thing. So I'm just going to hit next all the way through where the Git is actually going to install in our program files, and I'm just going to hit yes because I've installed it already and just overwriting this. And there we go, Git is now installed. For this next step, we're actually going to go to a website to download two tools that we need, very similarly named, but do two slightly different things. One is called Microsoft Visual Studio, and the other one is called Visual Studio Code. Both made by Microsoft. It's a little bit confusing, but follow along and we'll guide you in the right direction. So here we'll click in the website. Once again, these websites are in the video description below. And what I'm going to do is go to this little section here that says Free Visual Studio. And here are the two tools that we need. One is called Visual Studio, and that's for any time that we're going to be doing any C++ development. So C++ is still the de facto language for real-time audio software development. And so we're going to go ahead and download that. And now that's downloading. That actually downloads a helper app. Now we're just going to go through these options here. Okay, once you've installed the installer, this brings you to another section here where you can install a number of different tools. And this could be quite confusing if you are just getting started. But the one that we're going to download today is this desktop development with C++. So just go ahead and click on this, and we're going to hit install, and now it's installing Visual Studio Community Edition 2022. Okay, the next tool that we're going to download is called Visual Studio Code. So not to be confused with Microsoft Visual Studio 2022, it's a slightly different tool. And now we're going to go ahead and click User Installer. It's downloading. Pretty quick, very lightweight. We're going to accept this agreement. Just once again, default installation options here. Now it's installing. Great. And Visual Studio Code is the code editor that we will actually use if we want to develop our audio applications in CMajor. So CMajor is a new audio programming domain specific language that allows you to create DSP algorithms really quickly And most people use VS Code to actually use CMajor. And one of the reasons that they do this is because you can actually download the extension for CMajor right within VS Code. And I'll show you how to do that. We're just going to go with this dark modern theme here. And now if I go down to this bottom option where it says extensions, what I could do is I can just type in CMajor. And here we see this CMajor Tools extension. And if we just click install, now it's installing. And now we are able to code using CMajor. And I have separate tutorials on how to do that are on the channel. I will link those in the description below. Okay, the next tool that we're going to download is called JUCE. JUCE is an audio programming framework. Framework is a set of tools and libraries that are written on top of a programming language. In this case, the language is C++. C++ is the language that most people use for real-time audio software development. So we're going to go ahead and download JUCE. If you're familiar with the command line, you can actually download it via the command line. In this case, I'm going to make it simple for people who are just getting started, and we're going to download the personal license. We're going to download it here from the website. We're on a Windows computer, and this is going to make it really easy for people who are just getting started. Now we're going to go just into our downloads folder. We see the JUCE Windows folder. We're just going to unzip that. Now we have this this JUCE folder. I like to put this in the applications folder. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to cut it, program files, and I will paste it there. Okay, now that I've put the JUCE folder in my applications, I'm going to double click into this, scroll down, and I'm going to launch the Pro Juicer. So double click here. You may get a dialog up here saying that Windows protected your PC. I'm going to click on More Info, and then I'm going to click Run Anyway. And now we have the Pro Juicer running. So this is where you can actually set up new JUCE projects. I'll describe this in the next tutorial. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click here, and I'm going to click Pin to Taskbar so this actually stays in my task window. So I will just put it here. And I'm actually going to do that with my other applications as well. So I have Visual Studio 2022 and Visual Studio Code. Okay, this last tool that I'm going to recommend is a little bit more for intermediate to advanced software developers, but it's one that you will absolutely need if you're going to be working with C++. And that's called CMake. So CMake is a build system, which is a way that you can use a document to actually describe how your C++ files are supposed to be arranged and to build into an actual project, put simply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to this 64-bit installer. Just going to click to download this. Now I'm going to go ahead and open it. Once again, I'm just going to go for the default options here, accept the terms, next, hit install, and now we're installing CMake. Okay, and now we've finished installing CMake. So there you have it. I hope that was as much of a learning experience for you as it was for me, setting up all these applications on a Windows computer for the first time. In our next tutorial, we'll actually talk about running some code and how to open examples so you can see how audio apps work on a Windows operating system. Till then, happy coding.